evening, everybody. Thank you for attending our virtual Board of Adjustment meeting. We appreciate your patience and understanding through this time. For the public who would like to participate in this public hearing and are not already connected and able to audibly communicate with the board, please call 406-665-7443. Staff will provide information on how to participate. In the event that a speaker lost connection while communicating with the board, the applicant will need to reconnect to the webinar. The board will determine whether or not to continue the agenda item to the end of the hearing as do not delay the meeting. All public comments will be audible only, no video. When the public comment period arrives on the agenda, the chairman will ask for anyone to speak in support of the item to raise their hand. Please use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized. The webinar host will unmute your microphone. Persons joining the meeting via phone use the virtual raise hand feature by pressing *9 on the phone keypad. Board members and staff will be visible. The video option is disabled for applicant and members of the public. The meeting will be conducted in the same manner that we would in a regular meeting. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. The applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the request. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. The applicant may be given a chance for rebuttal. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. At the conclusion of all speakers, I will then ask the board for a motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Once the board has voted on your item, you may leave the meeting if you wish. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by stating their name and address. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. Speakers should mute televisions and computers to limit background feedback while speaking. Please be aware that information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at the public hearing will be kept by the clerk as part of the public record. Individuals will be given 3 minutes for their comments. If you are speaking on behalf of an official group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. Okay, we're ready for our first item.
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 1 is a variance request for 938 Willow Run Lane, located within the Willow Run subdivision. The request is to reduce the south side street setback from 25 feet to 20 feet for a privacy fence in the R1AA zoning district. The property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Willow Run Lane. The Veneta Court side is where the variance is being sought. The applicant is proposing to replace an existing wooden privacy fence with a new vinyl privacy fence within the same footprint, located 5 feet into the required 25-foot side street setback. The proposed privacy fence is 20 feet from the sidewalk and 30 feet from the edge of pavement. The proposed privacy fence encroaches into a utility easement, and that building permitting will be required to meet criteria of replacement with an estoppel letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, could you state your
Hi,
name?
how are you?
Good evening. You state your name and address for the record.
Yes, it's Jessica Clark, 938 Willow Run Lane, Winter Springs, Florida, 32708.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
No, I believe Ms. Patton covered everything that we're seeking.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one in support.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one in opposition.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion approved from Ms. Stark. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds.
And
Any
just for the
discussion?
minutes purposes, it was Jenny, not,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
You're kind of cut off on my screen, so I can't.
Sorry.
keep talking. All right. So Ms. Hayes made the, okay. And Mr. Hadaway second. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms.
Yes.
Hayes?
In favor.
Ms. Stark? You're muted, Ms. Stark.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. The motion is unanimous, 4-0. Okay, next item.
Item number 2 is a variance request for Tract B in the Sunrise Village Unit 3 subdivision. The request is for a wall height variance from 6.5 feet to 8 feet for a subdivision wall in the Sunrise Plan development. The request is for approximately 630 linear feet of a subdivision wall backing up to Red Bug Lake Road to be increased from 6 to 8 feet within the existing footprint, accounting for the additional grade of the road since Red Bug Lake Road was improved. The wall is 6 feet from the sidewalk and 14 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering have no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available and ready to speak.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Eduardo Garcia. I'm with Garcia Civil Contractors, and I'm the agent for the HOA owners at 1421 La Paloma Circle, Winter Springs, Florida 32708. And the owner's name is Sunrise Owners Group Incorporated.
Okay. So would you like to add anything to the staff presentation?
No, I think everything was up to par, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, just so we're clear, why the difference in height? Why go to 8 feet?
Unfortunately, a couple of years ago in the past, when the actual Red Bug Road lane was improved, the elevations of the road increased, and at them increasing, it impacted the view of the fence. So now the fence from the sidewalk elevation, instead of being 6 feet high like it was originally was, it's actually about 4.5 feet. So at increasing the wall height to 8 feet, it will create the original configuration that was at being 6 feet from the roadway grade.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant's representative? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one in support.
Okay, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No one in opposition.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to
Motion
approve.
to, go ahead.
Sorry.
They're fine.
Okay, who's approving? Or motion to approve?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your wall.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Item number 3 is a variance request for 1510 Hobson Street, located in the San Leandro Springs subdivision. The request is to reduce the west side street setback from 25 feet to 11 feet for a screen enclosure in the R1AA zoning district. The subject request is to construct a 38-foot, by 47-foot pool screen enclosure 11 feet from the side street property line, extending 14 feet into the required 25-foot side street setback. The property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces south on Hobson Street. The Daytona Avenue side on the west is where the variance is being sought. A letter of support has been received, which has been provided to the board. This concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is not raising their hand.
If you are present and your applicant, please raise your hand.
Sir, we can put this agenda item at the end of the variances, and we can call the applicant.
That works for me if there's no objection.
Okay, hold on. I just got to think. It's DC Johnson. He hasn't raised his hand, but I'm going to allow him to talk and ask him to unmute.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. If you state your name and address for the record. And you just muted it. Mr. Johnson, you need to unmute. There you go.
I'm the contractor for the Wrights that are wanting this pool enclosure built in their backyard.
Okay, could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Douglas Johnson, 1400 South Ronald Reagan Parkway, Longwood, Florida.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add to the staff presentation?
It was well done. I just would like to point out if y'all have any photos there that this side yard that we're wanting to go into, if we went to what's required, we would be in the pool as I drew a line, and they're going just to the edge of the slab, and there is a 6-foot fence, and it's well treed along that side street between the fence and the street. So I don't even know if it would even be noticed, to be honest with you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Mr. Hadaway.
Normally I like to ask this of the applicants, but they're not present. We have no comments from the across the street neighbors. Have you spoken with them?
Yes, sir. I sent in letters of consent. I've got copies of them here the only neighbor are the ones next door. And they sent, I've got a letter here that I had sent in. I don't know why it's not in the file, supporting, what
Yes,
the Wrights are wanting to do.
Yes, sir. I followed that. I'm asking about the folks across Dayton Avenue at what looks like 1540 Hobson Street.
The ones across the street, I did not even ask. I didn't think with them being across the street that would be something you would need.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I'm sorry, did you second?
Second.
Yes, okay,
Sorry.
thank you. Any discussion? I just state that with the fence there, already there, and the trees, I don't have my usual objection to that being that close to the property line. Okay, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
No.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 3-1. Okay. Next item.
Item number 4 is a variance request for 1425 Balmy Beach Drive located in the McNeil's Orange Villa subdivision. The request is to reduce the south side street setback from 10 feet to 7.5 feet for a single-family dwelling in the R1AA zoning district. The request is to construct a single-family dwelling 2.5 feet into the required 10-foot south side street setback, side yard setback. A letter of support has been received from the affected neighbor on the south side of the property. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Mr. Hadley?
Hillary, is this a tear down of the existing house that's there? They're going to build something new?
That's my understanding, yes.
And do you know, this may not be might not be a fair question catching you flat-footed. Do you know if the current house that's there meets the setback requirements?
I did not check that, but I can only
Yeah.
assume I didn't find a variance for it, so I'm sure we wouldn't have allowed it to be constructed without it meeting setbacks.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Done.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Patricia Manicherry, 1425 Balmy Beach Drive, Apopka, Florida, 32703.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
Yes, we are going to tear down the house. The house that's sitting there is at 8'4" off the line on that south side. I've asked the neighbor that's there, you saw, the letter was no opposition to that. The main reason is we have a private base ramp in the back. And right now the present house sits 8'2" off of that. We don't have privilege to go to the ramps that are on Bear Lake because we're not part of the HOA there. So we're basically wanting it on the right side only. And it would be in harmony with the, zoning. It originally was R1A, and then it was changed to R1AA with the previous owner. I'm the new owner. So the lot is only 75 foot wide and not 90.
Okay. So you're basically asking to extend it approximately a foot from where it actually sits.
It's 8'4" there
8'4" and you're
from the survey. Yes.
right, and you're looking at 7.5.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Roger is the neighbor that does not oppose it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I
Move to
motion
approve. Sorry, stepped on you.
No, you're fine.
All right, Mr. Hadaway, you move to approve? Do we
By
have
a second, yes.
All right, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, it carries 4-0. Enjoy your house.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
Uh-huh.
Item number 5 are 2 variance requests for 2327 Castlewood Road. I think I wrote that wrong. I'm sorry. A single variance request located within the Englishwood subdivision. The request is to reduce the east side yard setback from 7.5 feet to 6 feet for a screen enclosure in the R1A zoning district. The subject request is to construct a 46-foot 5-inch by 18 feet 11-inch pool screen enclosure 6 feet from the east side yard property line, encroaching a 1.5 feet into the required 7.5-foot side yard setback. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions from staff? Mr. Hadaway?
The applicant tells us that the pool deck's approximately 50 years old. Do we have any reason to think that's inaccurate?
Well, decking doesn't require a permit, so
Could be.
it could have been any time, yeah.
I mean, we have no reason to think that's wrong, though. Yeah. All right.
No, I mean, I looked back at our pictometry system goes back to 2004. It was there since 2004. So that's as far back as I could verify.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
I believe DC Johnson is also representing this applicant.
Mr. Johnson, are you still present?
He is available.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. If you'd state your name and address again for the record.
DC Johnson, 1400 South Ronald Reagan Boulevard, Longwood, Florida.
Good evening again, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
No, it was, again, well laid out. The only thing I would have like to add is if you are privy to the photo that shows the proposed line that we're wanting to do, you can see that they didn't try to go all the way out to the edge of the slab, which most people try to do. They wanted to get by with just enough where they would have ingress egress around that, the walkout for the steps. So, and the next door neighbor right across the fence, of course, it's put in a consent letter within 24 hours after we submitted this information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant's representative? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
All right, Mr. Hadaway, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy the new enclosure.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item.
Item number 6 is a variance request for 411 Blue Birch Court located in the Walden Cove subdivision. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 feet to 6 feet for a pool in the Walden Cove plan development. The request is to construct a 30-foot by 8-foot swimming pool 1.5 feet into the required 7.5-foot rear yard setback. The pool's deck will be 5 feet from the rear yard property line and is code compliant. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Hadaway.
Man, I hope I'm not opening a can of worms for someone, but it looks like, based on the aerials, that what they're requesting is identical to their neighbor to the north. Do we know if there are any issues with that neighbor or whether this, might not be consistent with that?
I didn't look into the neighbor to the north, no,
Okay.
but it does look rather similar.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Solid Endicott Box. Property address is 411 Blue Birch Court, Sanford, Florida, 32771.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
No, I think she's covered it.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at the diagram you submitted, and you have on the house side, it says 6 feet from the edge of the pool to the house. That's more than enough room to walk through. Why would you need the extra 1.5 feet on the other side?
On the other side of the property, we actually have, I think what they showed for the design, the pool width itself would only be like 7 feet. I basically could touch one end from the other end.
Right. I'm looking at the deck between the house and the pool. I believe that is.
What we were trying to accomplish is to have the pool a little bit larger. And I do know a neighbor in the subdivision had gotten theirs approved already as well.
Okay.
For the same variance that we're applying for.
Okay, so the reason for the extra 1.5 feet is because the neighbor, you're trying to match the neighbor?
No, the reason is to have the pool wider.
Right, but if you had, say, for example, 4.5 feet instead of 6 on the house side, then you wouldn't need a variance. It would just go
My
in.
understanding is we're supposed to be 5 feet off of the pool deck or off of the deck of the property.
Mhm. Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hathaway?
Sir, a question similar to what I'd asked staff a few minutes ago, not design wise, but dimension, excuse me, dimension wise, is this substantially similar to what your neighbor to the north has?
Yeah, this is pretty close to what they have.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None. None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hathaway, seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
I will vote yes. It'll carry 4-0. Enjoy your pool.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, next item.
Item number 7 is a variance request for 350 South Crestview Avenue located in the Salando Springs subdivision. The request is to reduce the north side yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for an accessory structure in the R1AA zoning district. The request is to construct a 12-foot by 26-foot boat cover 5 feet from the north property line, encroaching 5 feet into the required 10-foot side yard setback. 2 letters of support have been received from adjacent neighbors. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Greg Higgs. I live at 350 South Crestview Avenue, Longwood, Florida, 32750. She stated everything that needed to be stated. I did get talk to all the neighbors surrounding, and they were on board with everything. I had 3 letters. Some got misplaced. Everybody seems to be on board.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, next item.
Angie, you need to unmute.
Better?
Yeah.
Better.
Well, I was already done. I'm just kidding. All right, sorry about that. Good evening, Angie Califer with Planning and Development. Item number 8 is a request for a front yard setback variance from 25 feet to 22 feet for an addition in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District located at 1816 Poinciana Road in the Winter Woods Unit 2 subdivision. The proposed covered wood deck addition to the front of the residence will be 232 square feet and will encroach 3 feet into the required front yard setback. Property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
I'm sorry, is the applicant present?
Yes, they are.
Okay, if you state your name and address for the record.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, if you state your name and address for the record.
Yes, this is Michael and Ashley Costello, 1816 Poinciana Road, Winter Park, Florida, 32792.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is that we just want to rebuild the deck that was here when we bought the house 4 years ago. It's the exact same dimensions. It lines up with the front of the house. If we didn't have the extra 3 feet, the deck would not look right in relation to the front of the house. So it's the exact same deck. We just want to rebuild it how it was when we bought the house. The wood is getting rotten, and we're going to replace it with composite wood.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hathaway?
Mr. Costello, I think you said this, so I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, that if we approve the application subject to the deck, I understand you want to be lower, but basically the having the exact same footprint, would you be okay with that?
Yes, it's the deck that we're having built is going to be the exact same dimensions as the one that's there, the same footprint. Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Would for the motion, would you object to amending it to state approved so long as it is in the exact same footprint of the existing deck?
No, that's fine. I mean, that's what they said they wanted to do, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with it the way it is too.
So, Mr. Chairman, if we could have a motion to amend the motion to state, approve subject to it being in the same footprint.
So, Ms. Hayes, you're going to amend your motion to add that it's going to be in the exact same footprint as the existing deck.
Sure.
Okay, and Ms. Stark, you don't have a problem with that as a second?
No.
All right, so be it. Okay, any more discussion? All right, Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yeah.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your deck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Item number 9 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 20 feet to 15 feet for an addition in the PD Plan Development District located at 455 Brightview Drive in the Chase Grove subdivision. The proposed covered screen room will be 363 square feet and will encroach 5 feet into the required rear yard setback. The rear of the property where the variance is being sought backs up to a drainage retention pond. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, could you state your name and address for the record again, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, DC Johnson again, 1400 South Ronald Reagan Boulevard in Longwood.
Okay, I'm glad you're doing good business, sir. Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff's presentation?
The only thing would be, it was well done as the others. The only thing I'd like to add is if you can see from the photos, the only reason they're wanting to do this is just obviously that they back up to a swamp. And I wouldn't call it a retention pond. It's more like a swamp, and that swamp backs up to, I believe, 46A. The homeowner travels all the time, and which is why he didn't get letters, because he wasn't able to get in contact with the next door neighbors. But if you look at the photos, both neighbors on either side have these same rooms.
They also receive variances, just for the record.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the applicant's representative? Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Good luck, sir.
Thank you all very much for your time.
All right, next item.
Item number 10 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 25 feet to 6 feet for a privacy fence in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District located at 207 Doverwood Road in the English Woods First Edition subdivision. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Doverwood Road, and the Yarmouth Road side is where the variance is being sought. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The English Estates Homeowners Association has approved the proposed privacy fence, and letters of support have been received from 2 of the adjacent neighbors. The proposed privacy fence is 9 feet away from the sidewalk and 17 feet away from the edge of pavement. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Yes, could you state your name and address for the record?
She is available unmuted.
Okay, could you state your name and address for the record?
Her volume seems low.
Ms. Heffernan?
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes, we get a lot of static, but I can hear you.
It's
Okay.
Sonia, do you want me to say my name and address?
Yes, your
again?
name and address, please.
Okay, Sonia Heffernan, 207 Doverwood Road, Fern Park, 32730.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
From speaking with our neighbors, we got to meet through this process. Everyone has said that for as long as they have lived here, that the fence has been in this location. The house was built in 1975, and at least 3 of the neighbors have been here since the early 80s.
Okay, so you're looking to put a fence exactly what an existing fence is.
Yes, sir. We just want to replace the fence in the exact same location.
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hathaway?
Not so much a question, but I really love your skeletons. That's really cool.
Thank you.
We all laughed about that for days.
If you got to do it, make it fun, right?
It was awesome. Thank you for the laugh.
That is awesome. I was on hold for one of the power companies today, and that's how I felt when it was done. So, all right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hathaway, second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? You're muted.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Ms. Hart?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your fence. Love your skeleton.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item, please.
Item number 11 is a request for 2 variances. Variance 1 is for a rear yard setback from 7.5 feet to 5 feet for a pool's water's edge. And variance 2 is a request for a rear yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet for a pool screen enclosure in the PD Plan Development District located at 1806 Pasture Loop in the Parkdale Place subdivision. The proposed pool's water's edge will encroach 2.5 feet into the required rear yard setback, and the proposed pool screen enclosure will encroach 3 feet into the required rear yard setback. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay. And I'm assuming since we have all that water behind there that there's no going to be buildings going up behind it.
Right.
All right. Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Jason Rosado and Jennifer Rosado, 1806 Pasture Loop, Oviedo, Florida, 32765.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
No, that was pretty accurate.
Just that there, like you said, there is nothing in back of us, so it's not really obstructing any views. We can still see the pretty water, so
Okay.
that's all.
Any questions for the applicants? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
No questions?
Motion
I'll move
to approve.
You beat me to it. Second.
That's whatever.
All right, Ms. Martin makes the motion to approve. Mr. Hathaway seconds. All right, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. It's approved.
Use my hand.
All right, next item.
Okay, item number 12 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 25 feet to 4 feet for a privacy fence in the R1 Single Family Dwelling District located at 3063 East Windchime Circle in the Bel Air Hills Unit 2 subdivision. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Windchime Circle, and the Branchwood Drive side is where the variance is being sought. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. And the proposed privacy fence will be 4.5 feet from the sidewalk and 16.5 feet from the edge of pavement. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Are they just replacing the existing fence?
Let me look at the site plan. It looks that way. It's kind of faded on the site plan, but yeah, it does look like they're going right. They drew right on top of the same line that was there before.
Right. Okay.
But I could be wrong, so please ask the applicant because it is faded.
And Angie, there's no code enforcement issue going on with this?
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, could you state your name and address for the record?
John and Don Erickson, 3063 Windchime Circle East, Apopka, Florida, 32703.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
Basically, we have a fence that's been there since we moved in 2000, and we want to replace a partial piece of it and carry it along that 4 foot to about the front of the house where it's drawn in on that plot plan. And it's basically just a vinyl fence is what we want to install.
Okay, and is that going in the same footprint as the existing fence?
Part of it.
And which part is not on the footprint?
Can they go back to the picture?
Sure.
You can see where it says new fence in purple.
Right.
The existing fence is where it says remove with the X on it. It kind of goes at a diagonal.
And it was because of all the trees that we had in there at that time that we've now had removed.
Okay, so the old fence came across on an angle to the corner of the house, basically, just off the corner of the house. The new fence would extend further out towards the road to the other corner of the house.
Correct. Towards the front of the house, correct.
It'll carry the same line. Just
what hardship do you have that would require the fence to be extended?
Just to gain, to capture more of our yard that's why we removed the trees. And just because we have dogs and they can run around in the back and whatnot. Plus we're installing a pool behind the house.
Okay. All right, any questions for the applicants?
Can you share with me which of your neighbors have a fence that's identical to what you're asking for?
The one directly behind us,
go back to the picture, you can see it
yeah.
right there, the vinyl fence.
But are they a corner lot as also?
Yes.
Also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so they don't extend all the way across the front of the house though, over to the corner.
Right. They're a little they're back behind the house is where they cut across over to. Yes, that's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion.
Please, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that this is inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. As I've said a lot of times before, I don't like the creating of alleys and extending fences close to the sidewalks and the streets. And I think it's telling also when there's absolutely there are no letters of support from any of the neighbors. And I would with respect to my colleague, I would not support the motion.
I mean, but the other fence is already that close to the sidewalk. So you've got the neighbor's fence that's that close to the sidewalk. You've got part of their fence that's that close to the sidewalk. So why wouldn't we let another little piece be that close to the sidewalk?
I think that's a fair question. And the only answer I would give is that I guess, we don't know whether that was properly permitted or not. But beyond that, that just kind of goes a few feet across their house. It doesn't go as far and as close to the corner as what's currently being requested.
But it doesn't go all the way to the corner.
No, it doesn't. If we go back to
No.
the photo that Steph had shared, it only goes like halfway up their house.
Right.
Yeah, you see it there in that kind of right side of the photo there. It's quite a few feet left of that car. I didn't
guess
know
I
we had
don't see the
animation. That's
problem with
cool. Yeah. It's fairly debatable. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the problem with that one. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I would be more sympathetic if they were replacing it on the existing footprint as opposed to extending it to the other corner of the house. All right. Mr. Hathaway, how do you vote?
No.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
I'm going to vote no. The motion does not pass. Okay, next item. The motion is denied.
They have a right of appeal, though, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you may appeal your decision to the Board of County Commissioners within 15 days. If you contact staff, they will help you do so.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Item number 13 is a request for a side street west setback variance from 20 feet to 17 feet for a screen enclosure in the R1BB Single Family Dwelling District located at 2640 Quarry Stone Court and the Regency Estates Phase 2 subdivision. The proposed screen room addition will be 240 square feet and will encroach 3 feet into the required side street west setback. The Regency Estates Homeowners Association has approved the proposed screen room addition, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and 8 letters of support were submitted from surrounding neighbors, and that was emailed to you this morning. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any questions for staff? I do want to point out that I noticed it's a very odd shaped property. It would be hard to place anything back there without being close to one of the sides.
And there's also a subdivision wall. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I did not include that in my staff report. Normally I do. So my apologies about that.
So, okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Hey, good evening. My name is Sean Ritz. I'm at 2640 Quarry Stone Court, Oviedo, Florida, 32765.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
No, that was done well. You made a comment, or someone made a comment. It's kind of an odd angle back there where that brick wall is. So I think there is some discussion. If you look from the property line from front to back, it meets the variance. It's just that corner of the slab kind of comes at a weird angle. It's almost like a 45-degree angle where we'd have to kind of slice that slab just to meet the variance. So that's our only grievance with that.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hathaway?
Mr. Ritz, am I looking at your sketch correctly that really all you're asking for is just to enclose the existing concrete pad?
That's exactly correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone to speak in support of the request, please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. It's approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to our special exceptions for the evening, and item number 14 is a request for a special exception for the permanent placement of a manufactured home in the A1 Agriculture District located at 9641 McNorton Road. The applicant is requesting to replace a single-family residence with a new 2020 manufactured home. Available records indicate that the area along Norton Road has a mixture of vacant agriculture and residential uses, including manufactured homes. The current trend of development along McNorton Road, single-family residential with vacant agriculture uses. Based upon the trend of development in the surrounding area, staff would consider the permanent placement of a new manufactured home that met all building and planning requirements, design standards. If the board chooses to grant the special exception, staff recommends the following condition: that only one single-family manufactured home unit or one single-family residence on the property will occupy the site, and the manufactured home will otherwise conform to applicable building codes, including standards for anchoring, utility, accessibility, and skirting. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions of staff? Hadaway?
Silly procedural question for county attorney's office. And of course, we'll see what the applicant shares with us. If I'm inclined to vote to approve subject to staff recommendations, do I need to read what those recommendations are? Or if I just say subject to staff recommendations, that'll get it done?
That will get it done, because correct me if I am wrong, the staff with their recommendations include those conditions as part of the recommended order that's included in the package.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Yes, you state your name and address for the record.
Raul Corona and Melissa Corona, 9641 McNorton Road, Altamont Springs, Florida, 32714.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to what staff told us?
No, I think it's covered. You have any questions? I'm available though.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, okay. Ms. Stark? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. It is approved. Okay, before we get into the next item, it's been right at an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we'll pick up on the next one, because I think this one may take a little while.
Bless your heart.
All right, back in 5 minutes. And get started again. All right. Next item would be West State Road 46, parcel 6A.
Kathy Hamill, Development Services. Item number 15 is a request to allow gas pumps as an accessory use to a convenience store in the C1 commercial retail zoning. The convenience store is currently under site plan review and is a permitted use in the C1 zoning. Gas pumps are permitted by special exception only as an accessory use to the convenience store. This property is located in the Wekiva Protection Area, but since the commercial entitlements were approved prior to the adoption of the Wekiva River Protection Area regulations in 1999, they can pursue development in the C1 zoning, provided they meet all applicable land development code policies, the comprehensive plan regulations, and the prior approved development order. The approval of the gas pumps is accessory to the convenience store, and its approval is based upon the primary use of the convenience store meeting all of the WARPA regulations. Staff finds and supports the use of the gas pumps as an appropriate use accessory to the convenience store and meets the special exception criteria with the following recommended conditions. That the layout of the proposed uses shall be substantially consistent, that which is depicted on the special exception site plan. The special exception granted shall expire within 1 year after approval unless a development permit based upon and incorporating the sixth special exception is obtained within 1 year period. The special exception granted will be limited to the authorization of 8 gas pumps or service pumps as an accessory use within the C1 retail commercial zoning district at this location. No building associated with the special exception shall be increased more than 10% in size from that which is shown on the special exception site plan without Board of Adjustment approval. And finally, prior to the issuance of development permits, a final site plan that meets all the requirements of all other applicable code requirements, including Chapter 40 of the Land Development Code and the applicable Wekiva River Protection Area requirements as put forth in the applicable development order that was approved in 1995. We have received several emails in opposition. Those have been forwarded to each one of the board members and also the clerk to enter into public record. This concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Paul, I have a question for you. I want to get this on record. One of the largest objections to this is that it's in the Wekiva River Protection Area. Are there any regulations, statutes, laws, whatever, that prohibit that from being there?
No, there is not. This property carries with it the 1995 development order, which predated the Wekiva River Protection Act. So the ability to have commercial use on the property runs with the property. The property is zone C1, which allows convenience store by right. And to have the gas pumps, that requires a special exception, which is why this hearing is before you this evening.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to get on the record the county's position. Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Mr. Hadaway? You're muted. You're muted, Mr. Hadaway.
Question for Ms. Hamill. Do we know what the prior, because I see the concrete pad there from the aerials. Do we know what the prior use of that property was?
It was initially approved as a gas station with gas pumps, but since that time, the gas station did cease and desist, and there have been several commercial uses that have been operating on the site.
Gotcha.
I believe
Second,
now it is vacant.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am. And second and final question, is the county aware of any species, vegetation, soil issues, anything particularly sensitive associated with this parcel?
They do require for them to submit a study that I think for any endangered or wildlife, and there are wetlands on the property that are protected by the Wekiva River Protection Act that is being reviewed as part of the site plan.
And they'll have to take that into account as to whatever final site plan they submit.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Hayes.
I just wanted to clarify with the county attorney. So the only actual exception that we are approving or disapproving tonight is the addition of the gas pumps, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because they could have a gas station there. That's not what we're doing. It's the pumps.
They can have a convenience store. They can have any commercial use on there. Any permitted C1 uses are allowed on the property.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available and
Okay.
Hello? Yep.
Yes. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, this is Eric Lagacy with Kimley Horn and Associates. I'm at 189 South Orange Avenue, Suite 1000, Orlando, Florida 32801.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
No, I think they did a great job. I can certainly answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir. Hang around. We may need your rebuttal. All right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
none.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
I have Allison Yurko.
Okay. Allison, take your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, thank you. It's Allison Yurko, PO Box 2286, Winter Park 32790. And I actually am not speaking in opposition. I'm just speaking for purposes of information. I actually tried to raise my hand to speak in support, but for some reason it didn't work. So I am part of the family that owns the property to the south, the Yurko parcel. And that is the parcel where the proposed access point onto Orange Boulevard is shown. And that is in pursuant to a DRC comment back from the DRC meeting on September 1st. And we've been waiting to get confirmation that that is a permittable access point. And I just want to bring that to the board's attention. This is absolutely by right. This is C1 property, as is the Yurko parcel. It is not hydrologically connected to the Wekiva in any way. Or anything. It's really exists in the WARPA to square off the boundaries. So we are absolutely in support of the proposal. We do, however, want to be sure that this access issue does not slip through the cracks and is not sort of buried in another site plan review, and would like a condition to the effect that the approval is conditioned upon permitting of a shared/cross access onto Orange Boulevard at the Yurko parcel to the south, at a location satisfactory to the owner of the subject parcel and the owners of the Yurko parcel to the south. I have discussed that with the property owners and discussed it a little bit with staff. Again, I would point out that this property is in the, it's actually ironically in the State Road 46 Gateway Corridor Overlay Standards zoning classification, which calls for the importance of maximizing traffic circulation functions from a standpoint of safety, roadway capacity, etc. It calls out the importance of planned and coordinated uses. Our property actually was under contract by the developer of this corner piece. It is no longer under contract, but again, we just want to be sure that it is not lost in the shuffle, that it needs to be an integrated access. Again, that is what's shown on there. And this is our opportunity to get this out in front of you. Special exceptions are a time when you look at the impacts on adjacent property owners. And while I know this is just for the ancillary use of the gas pump, it does wrap into the overall use of putting this on this parcel. And so with that, we would respectfully request that you approve it with this condition. Thank you.
Okay. But you do understand that even if we denied the gas pumps, that doesn't have anything to do with for the convenience store. We have no influence of where they put that entrance.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, we've been waiting for 2 months to get some closure on where the entrance point is. So it would just seem like a rational time to bring this up, since they are asking for a land use approval for the gas pumps.
No, I understand. I just want you to understand it.
Yeah. I do understand that. I just think this is
If it wasn't for the pumps, we have no influence on it.
correct.
Okay.
I understand that. I just think, like I said, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we're concerned it might slip through the cracks. This keeps everybody's feet to the fire to be sure that we get that done and put it at the forefront. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Yurko? Mr. Hadaway?
Actually, a question for County Attorney's Office, as it's becoming might be relevant with what Ms. Yorko had mentioned. Paul, am I wrong in my thinking that us putting we can't put as a condition of approval the applicant entering into some kind of agreement with Ms. Yorko, because that just sounds way too contingent and beyond the scope of what we can do. Am I wrong in thinking that?
The hearing before you this evening is for the purpose of considering a special exception to allow the gas pumps. The site planning issues are site planning issues and are not specifically before you this evening.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request?
None. We do have several people have their hands raised in opposition.
Sure.
The public hearing process allows.
Right. So I just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody
3
else.
minutes for themselves and 6 minutes for people organization.
Yes.
And Chairman, we can have the clerk time the speakers if you so wish us to do.
Yes, I do desire to do that. So if you are an individual, you have 3 minutes to speak. If you represent an official group, you have 6 minutes. And then that means the other people in the group are giving up their 3 minutes because they're giving you more time. Okay? So we're ready for the first person in opposition to the request. Please raise your hand.
Bringing in George Sellery.
Good evening, Mr. Sellery.
Good evening, sir, and members of the Board of Adjustments. Can you hear me?
Yes, George, could you state your name and address for the record?
Sure, it's George Sellery, and I live at 5231 Shoreline Circle in Sanford. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
George, 1 second. Just for the record, I know George Sellery. We used to work together for the same employer.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, George.
All right. And I'm only 3 minutes on this because I hadn't gone to the HOA on this issue. We didn't have time. We only had 5 days to see this information online. But in the Board of Adjustment information on the Seminole County website for special exceptions, it basically gives the criteria for approving the special exception. A couple of them: will not adversely affect the public interest. I wholeheartedly say that putting a Wawa there will totally affect the public interest by putting it in the Wekiva River Protection Act. And in our Wekiva study area in the Seminole County Comp Plan, it clearly shows that as a recharge area. It also says does not have any unduly adverse effect on existing traffic patterns, movements, and volumes. This is just like a Chick-fil-A. Orange Boulevard there and State Road 46 will be a nightmare if there's a gas station on that corner. And by the way, there is not a single gas station west of that line. This is the line in the sand. I sent you all a letter on this the other day. I hope you got it. But that letter basically indicates that this is the line in the sand. The boundary doesn't shift. There's been a lot of places that have been interested in this site, and they've all moved on. Racetrack 3 years ago moved on. Moreno's across the street. People have been interested, but no one's crossed the line. And we basically, it says it's not detrimental to the character of the area or neighborhood or inconsistent with trends of development. I know staff looks at what's across the street, but that's the east side going towards I-4. The line in the sand is west on Orange. And I also, you know, I disagree a little bit with the county attorney. One, I don't think that 1995 development order, it's way old. But even if you approve that and you look at that, it clearly says on that development order that the provisions of the Wekiva River Protection Act and shall be less intense, less than low density residential. And I question anyone to tell me where a Wawa is less intensive than anything else. And then finally, my final point on this I'd like to make is you're looking at this based on 30.723, which clearly says the Board of Adjustments looks at the following uses for the CS, Convenience Commercial District, the CS district, which falls under C1. And it talks about the self-service gas pumps as one of the things you look at. But it says under the description of the district, this district is designated to serve those areas in Seminole County that are predominantly residential in character, but require convenience of grocery stores. The uses in this district shall be highly restrictive and designed to serve primarily the residents of the immediate neighborhood. We have a Publix less than a half a mile from this site, and another 1 mile from this site, and 2 gas stations with convenience stores directly on the other side of the boundary. And the gas tank exception expired in 1977 by staff's own comments at DRC, along with a bunch of traffic issues at DRC. So I'm hoping that this issue goes to the Board of County Commissioners. This is really just like the rural boundary or the Bear Wilderness area or any of those protected areas. I don't think the Board of Adjustment or staff should really, be put on the spot on this.
Hey, George, your time,
Yep.
staff's letting me know your time is up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And I would like to make a clarification. This is C1 zoning, not CS zoning.
It's not listed under C1.
That it's a special exception, gas pumps as an accessory use.
Right, I'm sorry, but.
You're talking about the
Captain,
primary use, and that's not, we're hearing the accessory use.
Right, but the
special
primary uses for that C1 district does not say gas pumps, does not say convenience stores. It refers to the CS district, which is where this is being approved. I'm sorry, I'm just weighing in. I'm looking right at the CS or the C1 district right now, right on the webpage.
Okay.
C1 retail commercial does not mention grocery stores, convenience stores. It just says any use permitted in the CS district, and that's where convenience stores are mentioned.
Okay.
And thank you.
George.
Chairman Johns, this is Rebecca Hammock. Just for clarification,
Yes.
all of the uses in CS zoning are allowable in the C1 zoning at pyramids. So.
Okay. All right. Any questions for George? Mr. Hadaway.
Mr. Celery, I have a few questions, and our obligation is to consider competent substantial evidence. And so I'm going to ask you a few questions. I don't want you to think I'm being adversarial, okay?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
How is this any more impactful than what 429 is going to do to the area?
Well, the 429 curves off right before this intersection. So the folks coming straight, sir, would be going towards probably I-4 heading east to Daytona Beach. That would be my guess. But I guess back to the question there is just that I drive my grandson to Wilson Elementary. That part of Orange, the 7-Eleven's own entrance from Orange is like, an eighth of a mile back because that light backs up and that part of Orange is not scheduled for any improvements as far as the county's got on the books.
All right, sir. Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you,
sir.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Celery? All right, thank you, George. Okay. Who is the next person to speak in opposition?
We have Joe Humphreys.
Joe?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, sir. Joseph Humphreys. My address is 883 Cardinal Point Cove. I'm the vice president of the Cardinal Point HOA, and I would like to have 6 minutes to speak on their behalf.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for all your service. I've been involved in around government service and politics for most of my life. I come to you as an investor, a former broker, and somebody who has invested in these types of properties in the past. Our concern about this particular location is, again, the impact that it will have potentially upon the WARPA. George mentioned in his statements the fact that in 1995, the development order indicates into perpetuity the fact that any development on this property would be less impactful than residential. And there are residential properties adjacent to this. Across the street, we have a major subdivision just north of that. It's also in the East Lake Sylvan transitional zone. It's in the urban bear zone. It's in the aquatic recharge zone. So there's a lot of overlays that this particular piece of property sits in. As far as, again, the commercial zoning, I guess that's less of an issue at this point as opposed to the gas pumps. I have family that's been involved in this business. I do have engineers in my family. My brother was in the environmental remediation business, and the two largest sources of their business, his company based in North Carolina, was one, Superfund cleanup sites at government military bases, and the second one, and pretty significant, was cleanup of gas stations. I have in front of me from the state 27 pages of two-sided of issues of leaking tanks and so on, and that they have within the state. This is in a karst area, and if you look around the area, there's lots. We've had lots of flooding to the north of this location, to the south of this location. So the potential for that type of thing is potentially problematic, again, given the fact that it's in an area that's supposed to be preserved. As far as meeting the 2020 for the county, it says in it, that we will, by protecting neighborhoods and rural and conservation areas. That's what this is. Now, I understand Mr. Hadaway's comments about the freeway. Yes, I was in Tallahassee actually when they were debating that whole thing, and they spent several years trying to figure out, a good location for that. But I know my friend Jeb Bush said at the time, this is an opportunity for us for the concern and the conservation of the area to work hand in hand with the ability to develop. And I think you'll find that most of the people that you've heard from are not against development. Like I said, I was in that business, but we're for smart development. And the government since the 70s has been trying to protect the Wekiva Basin and the St. Johns. And they've passed multiple pieces of legislation in order to do that. So I've talked with the people that are immediately impacted by this location. In this case, Circle K and the 7-Eleven, and none of them have been contacted from the management that I spoke with. I was out there today and circled the property both on 46 and on Orange Boulevard. And if the notice, public notice, was placed on site, it's either been knocked down, driven over, buried, or something, because it's not readily visible. And even if it was on 46, with the construction that's currently going on, it'd be extremely difficult for somebody to see it, number one, and to be able to stop and try to read it, number two, because if you do that, you're probably taking your life in your hands. As far as traffic concerns, again, I was actually there with two county sheriffs today at the 7-Eleven and a Sanford motorcycle officer. And we talked about the challenges that we're dealing with the traffic there. As George said, the entrance for the 7-Eleven is back significantly from 46, again, because of problems with ingress and egress. Somewhere along the line, what you have before you today is not the original order that was presented to DRC initially. The original order showed not only the gas station, gas pumps, but also a fast food drive-in restaurant, and the ingress and egress locations were marked specifically. What's before you today has been changed from that, and we're not quite sure what's precipitated those changes. So all in all, again, there's an awful lot of questions here. Again, I'm not particularly against Wawa per se. You know, I frequent them often, but we're concerned about the location and the negative impacts that this will have on the local community as far as transportation is concerned, the ingress and egress, as Ms. Yurko had pointed out. None of that's been settled. So again, we're concerned about the potential abandonment of the other stations if indeed Wawa is as successful as they typically have been. They're known to go into the marketplace. They have very good cap rate, but they will undersell the market. And in this era of COVID, when everybody is running at less numbers than they're used to, we're very concerned about the potential negative impact on the other businesses surrounding it.
Okay.
So with all those things said, we're concerned, and we would like for you to vote against this. Yes, sir.
Staff has given me a signal that your 6 minutes is up.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me see if the board members have any questions for you. Any questions for Joseph? Yes, Ms. Hayes.
So we see this a lot of times when we have special exceptions on the agenda. People want to voice frustrations or concerns that are not in the purview of the Board of Adjustment. So I know that this speaker did indicate a little bit about the gas pumps. So all the stuff about ingress, egress, traffic, flow of traffic, increased traffic, this area can, my understanding, and that's why I wanted to clarify with the county attorney's office before we got into discussion, this area can be developed commercially, period, end of story, under the way the code is currently written with the various laws interacting with one another. The only thing that we are here to discuss as the Board of Adjustment and weigh in on is whether or not we're going to permit gas pumps to be placed. That's it. We have no other say in any other matter except the gas pumps. So I wanted to ask this speaker, and I will be asking all subsequent speakers as well, if they don't address it, is what is your specific opposition to the gas pumps being placed? Because that's the only thing we're voting on tonight. So to me, that's the only relevant opposition that I can, that I can consider in my vote. So what is your opposition, and specifically to the gas pumps being placed there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, specifically potential environmental hazards, number one. Number two, the potential negative impact on surrounding businesses. Three, the fact that it is in the Wekiva Basin and it's not a specific item that's particularly warranted or was ever specified in that particular area. I've spoken with a number of other officials up to and including Jason Broder, for example, and he even concluded that to have gas pumps in the Wekiva protection basis establishes a very bad precedent going forward, because again, as we've seen time and time again, and as somebody who is presented for boards like yourselves and others, if we approve this, we are indeed establishing the trend. The trend of development is established by groups like yourself, planning and zoning, staff, and the BOCC. And because this has been such, the WARPA has been such a huge issue for decades, both at the state level, the county level, the federal level. For us to approve something like this in a very short order when there's been very little public awareness of it, we just feel that it's not in the best interest of the community. I've yet to talk to anybody that thought it was a good idea. And everyone that I've spoken to, including elected officials, indicated their opposition to it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the speaker? Mr. Hadaway?
Mr. Humphries, I have respect for the passion you bring to the issue and your various concerns. Our obligation, though, is to consider competent substantial evidence, as Ms. Hayes had mentioned in reference to these gas pumps. So if I look at this triangle that's been formed by what 429 is going to create barreling through 46 and Orange Boulevard, and I take into consideration you had raised unspecified environmental hazards, considering that you're not an engineer, that you're not a biologist, or any expert that falls into that realm, what competent substantial evidence can you share with us relevant to the gas pumps that we should take into account when considering this application?
Principally previous experience, not my personal experience, with my family's experience in having to clean up and deal with these types of locations. I don't anticipate that the Wawa would probably be abandoned at any time in the immediate future. However, what their business model would do to the other properties on the opposite side of the road potentially could have a negative impact. And we've certainly seen that nationwide. You know, I've got in my hand, multiple lists. They call them LUSTs, leaking underground storage tanks. And as of March, well, this is dated. This is the 2012 information. There was 504,000 of these documented nationwide.
How many of those were Wawa, sir?
I have to go back, and I haven't gone through the entire document. So,
and also, just how does Wawa's business practices relevant to its competitors apply to whether we should approve or disapprove gas pumps?
Well, from the standpoint that if they put the other people out of business, then that becomes potentially a problem for both the state and for the county as far as potential cleanup is concerned, and the potential for urban blight, because these types of properties, when they are abandoned, are very, very difficult to retrofit to future development, just because of the concern over long-standing pollution issues. As I said, I have friends in Ohio, the Englefield Oil Company, that has over 200 stations in both Ohio and West Virginia. So I've seen the issues that they've had to deal with. So
is it what you're saying, Mr. Humphries, that the ability of a business to be successful in a competitive market is something we should consider for denying an application?
Well, from the standpoint that you have the potential to create urban blight, which then becomes a legal and financial responsibility potential for the county, of which we're all taxpayers to. Absolutely.
So it would be better to have someone who's less competitive?
No, my suggestion is that we don't put gas tanks there in order to create the problem. There's sufficient supply at that location. I'm in this area every day. I live less than a mile, well, about a mile and a half from this particular location. The potential for groundwater intrusion. We've just had the Lake Sylvan pumped out by the county expense, I believe, because of all the water. Staff has indicated that this is a self-contained basin, and they have to be able to maintain the 100-year flood event on property. Well, that potentially floods out, underground storage tanks, which we've certainly seen in other locations. So again, it's the responsibility of the county and the state to not only look at what is the case today, but to prevent future problems, which then become a financial liability for the county as a government agency and for the taxpayers that pay to support it.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions for the speaker? All right, thank you, sir. Okay, next person in opposition.
Ray Wilson.
Okay.
Yes, if you
Need to unmute.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
my name's
name and address for the record.
Mr. Wilson, you're still muted.
still muted. I just unmuted, but he can hear me. Can everybody hear me?
Mr. Wilson.
I'm sorry. She said I was still muted.
Yeah, that's okay. I
There's
can
a
hear
little
you.
delay.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is
Majority
Gray
of the
Wilson.
internet.
Yeah. My name is Gray Wilson, 1125 Broadgate Lane, Heathrow, Florida. I'm speaking as a member of the Friends of the Wekiva River Board. I have served on Planning and Zoning, Charter Review Commission, Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee, and I was the initial chair of the county's Greenway and Trails Committee. Special exception: seeking permission to build or use property in apparent conflict with existing ordinances. A non-conforming use, continual land use that is not in compliance with newly enacted zoning ordinance. The Wekiva Protection Zone was put in place because of projects like this. That is a known. Your board and others may have been told that the River Basin Zone will not receive that protection from the impact of this gas station project. It does not meet the minimum protection standards. The basic tenet of the state legislation is to protect the federally designated Wekiva River, its tributaries, and the zone around it. Information from experts have been presented to you about the river basin, so you recognize this gas station's negative consequences for the area, its residents, and this wild and scenic river. Essentially, your board, where citizens are appointed, are deciding this project. This board adjustment hearing is the only time this project has appeared on a public agenda meeting. Yet your board is designed to consider, in this case, special exception, except other matters have not been settled. Please remember this and other points presented this evening, because others may tell you our comments are irrelevant here. The citizens are irrelevant. The Wekiva River and the regional impact of the project are irrelevant, and try to convince you to decide solely on the pumps. I am not disagreeing that that is your purpose, but not at this point. Take this opportunity to defer it to a later time and recommend the Board of County Commissioners provide you clarity. Others may argue that we can pay $1,000 and appeal if we don't like your decision, but that sidesteps the greater problem. This project approval is intertwined with your decision at this moment, and it should not be. I fall into that category because you have a better option. What is best for the river and the surrounding regional community is the question right now. This single decision moment placed upon your board for the pump is the same and only moment provided to citizens for the project. Our moment has come with limited notice and time to participate. Please have your board move to recommend the Board of County Commissioners place the gas station project on their public agenda for consideration. And if and when it makes it back, your Board of Adjustment can make the decision upon the special exception in the form it comes to you at that time. I'd like to add that it is apparent that with the questions you're asking, and they're good questions, but those questions, when I served on planning and zoning, were the types of questions that we asked. That should tell you something. And other questions about traffic. We had the property owner south of this saying that this should the maximizing of the traffic is one of the purposes of this. That's in contrary to what the Wekiva Parkway purpose is, it's actually to take traffic off this road and have people continue to I-4 and make their decisions there. That's why the State Road 46 actually is going away. That the State Road 46 officially is not going to be there. It's just going to be a service road along that area, right up in that area. So I wanted to give you that option. I wanted you to think about it. I think it's the best option. And it absolutely, to me, answers Mr. Hadaway's concern that you are there to decide on a special exception, but you happen to be at the moment where it's the same time that the citizens have their only opportunity to do a public comment during a public agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the speaker? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, next person to speak in opposition.
Is William Wills. And
all right, Mr. Wills.
See, can you hear me okay?
Yes, as you state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. First name William, last name Wills, W-I-L-L-S. I live at 495 Still Forest Terrace in Sanford. I am on the HOA. I'm the president of the HOA, so I request 6 minutes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir, what would you like to tell us?
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for this hearing and listening to our concerns. I wanted to outline a couple of things. Number one, I certainly understand the request is not about the convenience store. It is about the gas pumps and the exception to install a gas pump. So I'll try to concentrate on that since some of the others have covered some other items related to convenience stores and traffic and that sort of thing. First of all, that is the boundary. There are no gas stations north of there on 46. And so essentially approving a gas station or gas tanks to go underground in that location, one of the side effects that you have to consider, I mean, you can't pretend that this is not the case. It's the tendency to use precedent to continue construction. And that's what's occurred across construction across all of Seminole County is once you approve these gas tanks underground, that allows other organizations to say, well, they have one there, so let's put one here. And basically you'll have underground gas tanks approved as precedent north toward the Wekiva Basin. Secondly, specifically, there wasn't, as somebody else pointed out on the phone, there really wasn't a lot of time to prepare for this, to get, engineers or environmental specialists to present specifics, science facts related to this. So we're requesting more time to do that sort of research and get the appropriate specialists in place. Third, my concern is for the underground storage fuel tanks. Florida actually has the most leaking tanks in the U.S. and the 17,544 Florida tanks leaking in Florida that affect 16 million people. Now, of course, these would be new tanks on the ground. I would assume that they wouldn't go in leaking. To connect this to the problems we've been having recently, there's overt flooding throughout the county and throughout the area. And so we've had separate discussions with the county commissioners about addressing and doing a study. The flooding takes liquids and moves them out of their local containment area. So any fuel leakage, a pinprick of fuel leakage, I had a number here to tell you, it's 400 gallons of fuel a year. So just a little pinprick in one of the fuel leakage tanks. It's very difficult to detect. Once it starts leaking, the additional storm flooding problems would carry this toward the Wekiva River, which is due north, just a few miles down the road on State Road 46. And 93% of Floridians rely on ground or surface water for drinking. So again, you're putting tanks on the ground. I think number one, there's a potential that they could leak eventually. Number two, this is then setting a precedent for other tanks to be installed around that same area. And number three would lead potentially to this into the Wekiva River Basin, which actually technically is within that area there. And I believe, again, there's no commercial development north on 46. And honestly, really looking at a study done 25 years ago and say, well, it was agreed to 25 years ago. Now we're just going to approve it under that same study done 20. A lot of things have changed in the area. As I said, the development and the way water is being handled and flooding is being handled has become more problematic in the whole floodplain. So you have to really take a look at it again and say, what is this? Burying these tanks underground and the potential pollution created by a potential leak in the tanks. What is this going to do to the basin, and how much will it cost to clean up? How will it pollute the Wekiva River, et cetera? And I think that's really all I had. I think I also had one more statistic you wanted. There's 3,000 backlog cleanup. So we're behind anyway. So if something were to be detected down the road a few years, 5 years, whatever down the road, it's not even cleaned up right away. So the idea that this is close enough to the Wekiva River Basin area, it's actually within it, a leak that is detected down the road would take a lot of time to clean up. And by that time, it's typically going to pollute the Wekiva River and that whole basin area.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for the speaker? Mr. Hadaway?
Mr. Wills, I have respect for what you're saying. I'm a lifelong resident of Seminole County. I live on the west side of the county, not that far from this. The last thing in the world I ever want to do, though, is have this board, the county commission, someone do something that turns into a lawyer employment act. So we have to consider things based on competent, substantial evidence presented before us. You've shared a lot of things that are scary, but I didn't hear anything specific to this applicant and this particular piece of property. Do you have anything you can put into the record specific to this applicant or this piece of property?
Not specifically about this applicant and this property, but the idea that you're installing gas tanks underground on this property. That's the specifics about it, and that they do have a propensity to leak eventually, and it is in a sensitive area. I mean, we can go in Pollyanna and say, look, that's all just scare tactics. You'll make your decision, you potentially approve it, and then you guys move on. I know you live in the area. We both do, of course. But I guess I'm asking you guys to consider that there is that potential there, and you are opening up not only this particular property, because they're not really considered in a vacuum. Once you approve this to happen on this property, there's going to be additional requests for gas stations down the road. There just has to be, and it'll be used as well. That was approved previously too. Obviously, that's not a problem. I mean, I don't want to be, Pollyanna about it and think, well, it's just one property. It doesn't matter. There's nothing in particular about this property that's concerned. You do have to take a step back and consider disposition of this property and potentially additional construction that would occur.
Just be aware, though, that this there's no such thing as precedent in these kinds of things. And anyone who comes subsequent to this and tells us we need to do something because of how we voted on this, no, we don't have to. There's no such thing as precedent. So don't worry about that.
Well, Mr. Hadley, with all due respect, I'm new to this whole sitting in commissions and talking about these sort of issues. I've only been doing this 6 months now, being pulled into this with some other folks in concern for construction. I've already heard that numerous times. So perhaps you guys, that never happens in this board, but I hear repeatedly referring to other constructions and other developments. So it is used as precedent. I'm not sure, you can't say that every time that it's brought up as precedent that it's approved, certainly, but it does open that argument to, well, they approved it. And again, I don't mean any disrespect. I've actually personally been in meetings and commission meetings and all that and seeing that used as precedent.
I feel no disrespect, and thank you for your comments.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Any other questions for the speaker? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next person to speak in opposition.
We have Cindy Holler.
(1731) Beacon Drive, Sanford.
Hi, Cindy.
Am I being heard? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, are you speaking on behalf of yourself or a group?
Well, I actually could speak on a group, but honestly, I don't think I have 6 minutes worth of comments to make, so I could just be myself.
All right, 3 minutes. Okay.
So, yeah, so I was going to say, I'm up and down this area all the time. I live very close by. I have a Wawa app on my phone, and I do frequent Wawa, so I'm a fan of the store. However, the boundary is what the boundary is. And underground tanks in the Wekiva River Protection Area, not in the best interest of the county. And so it's not in the best interest of the residents. I'm a resident, and I'm just saying this area is a recharge area in the protected area, and it's not in the public interest. So I would ask that you either deny the request or you send it on to the BCC. I was going to tell you too that I'm signed up to get Department of Environmental Protection emails for a few of the counties that I care about. So there's like, I think I'm signed up for like 4 counties. And I see almost every day I get an email about something, oops, that happened that shouldn't have, that they need to do cleanup on. So they typically use lime juice or lime or something to, probably not lime juice, excuse that, to kind of clean up different spills. I'm familiar with this corner, and there, like people mentioned, there's already gas stations there, but I know it's kind of, you know, I remember what Ms. Hayes said, we're not talking about that, but there used to, you know, sometimes be a pizza truck there and stuff. So I know what corner we're talking about, and it is Wekiva River Protection Area, and like I said, border is border. So that's pretty much what I have to say on the issue, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay. Next person to speak in opposition.
We have Allison Yurko has raised her hand. I know she's speaking previously, so if the board wants to hear from
Ms.
her.
Yurko had her time, so I'm going to have to defer from that. Okay, anybody else to speak in opposition?
And actually, she just put down her hand. That is the end of the opposition.
All right, anybody else to speak in opposition?
No.
Okay, I'm going to conclude the public portion of the hearing. The applicant, if he would like, can have some time for rebuttal specifically to the issues that have been brought up. The applicant, if you're present, please raise your hand.
Yep. This is Eric Lagacy with Kimley Horn and Associates. Actually, Chuck Whitall with Unicor would like to speak. He's the developer and would like to speak on behalf of the project.
Okay.
Eric, is he by phone?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I have a phone number I'm going to allow to talk. It doesn't say his name.
Is this Chuck?
He needs to unmute. Just *6 to unmute.
Hello, Chuck? You're muted. If you hit *6, it should unmute your phone.
Eric, I have his live 8.
Okay, I think I got it. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm doing it from my iPhone, and I'm still not as technologically advanced as my daughter. So,
All right.
Yeah, forgive me. Anyhow,
No,
thank you
sorry.
for.
If
This
you
is Chuck
state
Whitall.
your name, sir, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, it's Chuck Whitall at 7940 Via Delagio Way, Suite 200, Orlando, Florida. And I'm with Unicorp National Developments, and thank you for your time this evening. I just wanted to address a couple quick things. I heard a lot of talk about competitors and things like that, which we're not here to hear tonight. I wanted to make clear that this property, because you know, the last lady said this is in the boundary, and the boundary is the boundary, but we preceded the boundary. And you guys are familiar with the Burt Harris Act, that you know, that would be a reverse condemnation of taking our property rights away from us. So we preceded that. We preceded the Wekiva River Protection Act. So we shouldn't be judged on that. But with all that said, we are in a closed basin also. We are 3 miles away from the Wekiva River. We are on the east side of the expressway. And like our engineer mentioned earlier, this property was kind of the squaring point off of that district. So we are outside of the district. We do not drain into the Wekiva River. We are a closed basin. And so, you know, these arguments just really aren't effective to us contaminating the Wekiva River. Also, you know, Wawa is a new generation gas station. It's not the old generation gas station. We've come millions of years, you know, into tanks and tanks being sealed and not having contamination issues. Competitors next door should not be an issue. And just up the street, you approved a Wawa with a special exception, which is no different than us. We're the same type of zoning. We should be approved. We're not asking for a zoning change. You know, we should be approved with that type of usage there. So I just wanted to get that clear that, you know, it was a gas station before, and it did exist before the Wekiva River Protection Act.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, board, you have a motion.
I'll move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations, including the staff recommendations.
Second.
And we have a second from Ms. Hayes. Any discussion?
I feel like there's no competent substantial evidence to that would defeat the applicant, and I don't feel like giving lawyers a whole bunch of money over a losing cause.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Stark?
Unmute.
No.
You vote no, and I vote yes, so it carries 3-1. Okay. For those who do not agree with our decision, you have 15 days to appeal this to the Board of County Commissioners. If you contact staff, they will assist you in doing so. Okay, next item.
Our last item on the agenda is a request for a special exception for a residential treatment facility for children or adolescents with substance use and mental health disorders in the C1 Retail Commercial District. The applicant currently operates the Lotus Healing Center at this location, which provides voluntary, individual, and group therapy for children and adolescents. The requested special exception is to expand their current use to include a 30 to 90 day residential treatment facility for up to 35 children or adolescents. Hospitals and nursing homes are permitted as a special exception uses in the C1 zoning district. The proposed use was determined by staff to be similar and compatible use and therefore eligible as a special exception and is consistent with other uses in the Willow Springs Commercial Center, which includes offices, an assisted living facility, and nursing rehabilitation facility. The proposed use will be within the existing building and there will be no additional exterior improvements associated with the proposed use. The patients of the residential treatment facility would be dropped off and picked up by parents, guardians, or other transportation service. The current parking lot of 73 spaces meets the minimum requirement for the proposed use. Staff does recommend approval of this request based upon the following conditions. That the special exception granted only applies to the residential treatment facility for children or adolescents with substance use and mental health disorders as depicted on the special exception site plan. Patients of the residential facility will be transportation service. The residential treatment facility for children or adolescents up to 17 years old, except when the patients turn 18 while they're under treatment. The number of patients will not exceed 35 children or adolescents. The length of stay will be a minimum of 30 days and a maximum of 90 days. The layout of the proposed use must be substantially consistent to which is depicted on the special exception site plan, and no building with the special exception may be increased more than 10% in size unless it's approved by the Board of Adjustment. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available. He just needs to unmute. He's available.
Hi, I'm here.
Yes, if you state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Michael Radka, 1030 Springville Point, Winter Springs, 32708.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
Yes, sir. As the president and CEO, and on behalf of the board of directors and staff of Lotus Healing Centers, which is a 501c3 registered nonprofit, I'd like to thank you all as part of the Board of Adjustment for your time and your consideration of our request. This is my first time ever engaging in this process, and in fact, this is my first time sitting in one of these meetings, and I'm sitting here with some of my team members at our building here in Winter Springs, and I'd just like to say thank you for this time, and I'd like to introduce some of the team members here to my left. I've got Chris Bevan. He's one of our directors. And then to his left, Wante Vanderpool. And then online, we might have Roland Samaru from our team. Yeah. Lotus is a 20,000 square foot facility. And we decided to create this organization as a nonprofit so we could help children. We have been successful in securing our DCF licensure for outpatient, intensive outpatient, and day and night treatment already. And it's all because of the hard work of the folks that you see here sitting with me and other folks that are on the call. I want to say thank you to the Seminole County team for helping us through this process to know the right things to do. And as part of that process, we took an effort to go around to our neighbors and to introduce ourselves. And every single person and organization that we engaged and told the story to was 100% favorable of the direction that we're going and the services that we provide and that we will provide. I'm here for questions, and again, thank you for your time.
Hey, sir, I have some questions for you. So, I see that the facility has a proposed 6-foot wall around 3 sides, I believe, and a 6-foot fence on the other side. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any provision? I don't need you to go into specific details about your facility's security, but are there provisions in place to keep the kids in the facility before they get to the 6-foot wall that teenagers will go right over? I run a detention center, trust me, I know.
Correct. Yeah, we're not a detention center. We're not a detox or anything like that. So we did not see the need to increase or to change any of the perimeter walls or fencing around the building because we have it around both in the back and on each side, to the left and right. What we do have, though, is the focus and intent to go ahead and install security cameras all throughout the inside of the facility and around the outside of the facility. Furthermore, access to rooms and doors throughout each of the 3 floors will be badge access, along with a staff member that is trained well in being able to go ahead and counsel children that will be at the front desk of the front door.
Okay. And what is your staffing ratio, especially after hours?
So yeah, we have to maintain at least one awake representative at all times. But the way that we look at our facilities, we'll probably have 3 staff members at a minimum during sleeping hours that are awake, essentially 1 on each side of the building and 1 at the front desk.
Okay. then what I ask is, I can tell you cases when I used to do probation where we dropped a child off, or a mother dropped a child off at a residential facility similar to yours, and mother went to Publix, and by the time she got home, the child was in her kitchen eating a sandwich. But they didn't even realize the child was gone yet. So I just want to make sure I feel confident that there's adequate provisions that, you know, ensure the kids' safety, because anything can happen to them, especially with drug and mental health issues.
Yes, sir. We're with you. And we have measures in place to keep track of all of our kids, whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have a Mary Ann Berry.
Okay, Mary Ann?
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, could you state your name and address for the record?
Happy to. I'm Mary Ann Berry. My address is 608 Kane Place, Celebration, Florida, 34747. And I have the privilege to serve as the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Citrus Council, and Seminole County is home actually to our largest program property, Camp McCowie, and in Chuliota. So I'm here this evening, though, to speak in favor of what Mr. Radka is requesting. I'm speaking as an individual and a business leader in youth services in Central Florida. And again, with that major presence in Seminole County, of a lot of families that we serve in Seminole County. And I'll tell you what I think about this. Girl Scouts is not an intervention program, so I want to be really clear to make sure there's clarity on that link. We're not an intervention program, but I'll tell you what I do feel is that organically we're one of the best prevention programs in the United States, and I do have an extreme appreciation for early intervention and know that it can make a tremendous difference in long-term outcomes for children. And an important point for you to understand about why I'm speaking about this evening is, in addition to where I serve now, I spent more than 20 years of my career in family and child advocacy, more specifically as a published leader in substance abuse and mental health and community building industry in the state of Florida. So I've had the opportunity, Mr. Radka serves on the Girl Scouts boards of directors. So I've had the opportunity to get to know him and talk to him about his program that he's building here and discuss his intent. And I will tell you that my point of view is I'm very impressed with their plan. They did address, I heard you mention earlier, an elopement prevention plan, so that they are keeping the kids secure and protecting from that elopement. I've worked in several facilities, sir, and I am very aware about the sometimes the kid goes home for lunch when they're not supposed to. But his intent for this facility is really a very necessary thing, I think, in Seminole County. Quite frankly, I'd love to see a facility like this in every county. We have so many families that we know are suffering and having challenges that with the right kind of early interventions, lives could be changed forever. And that has a ripple effect across communities. It improves the outcomes of the entire community. So I am in favor of what Mr. Radka is asking for, because I believe a facility like this would be an asset to Seminole County and the families of Seminole County, and make, back to my Girl Scout roots, make the world a better place. So I hope that you all positively consider this, because I think it's the right thing to do for many, many families in Seminole County who would benefit long-term, in a multi-generational way from the opportunity to receive these services. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say that I know there's a nationwide shortage in substance abuse and children's mental health programs. So you can never have too many of them. There are some in the county, but there are not enough. Thank you.
Yes, there's never enough. I agree. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the speaker? All right, thank you. Anyone else to speak in support of the request, please raise your hand.
Yes. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, hi, James Ekbatani. Can you hear me?
Oh, that's not the name that came up on my screen. You surprised me. Okay, state your name and address for the record.
Ekbatani, James Ekbatani. The address is 1030 Spring Villas Point, Winter Springs, Florida. And wanted to echo what Mr. Radko said earlier. I do support this program. I am the sponsor of this program financially. Before this program, we had a national health and wellness program operating from that building. We had 725 employees. I operated that operation in 23 states, and our focus was helping seniors stay healthy and through preventive medicine. I'm proud to say that over the 20 years of our operation, we served more than 1.5 million seniors in multiple states. The intent behind this building, this operation, is to create something similar to what we had before, where we can replicate it in other states, other cities, to benefit our children. And I am a philanthropist. I'm very much involved with these children's causes, including the one that Michael spearheaded many years ago, which is Hope Now, that takes care of many, many children every year. And so this happened to be a personal passion for me to fund, and the funding, the building is dedicated to this program. It's a $2 million building. In addition, I'm supporting it up to about $1 million in operating fees, operating expenses, in order for it to become viable. We've been at it for about 8 months. And the reason I say that is because I had a personal experience in my family with one of the kids. I have 5 children. One of them got involved with the wrong folks and got into a rehab program. So it is near and dear to me. I'm very much behind this, and we like to try to extend this to not only the kids in our county, but use this as a roadmap to provide this necessary service to thousands of children throughout the country that are suffering from this, and also the parents that are suffering even more probably than their kids. So I do really appreciate your consideration, and your staff has been fantastic in supporting us. And just wanted to say that and thank you one more time.
Right, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
The clerk has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Okay, I'm just wanting for clarification. I want to assume that does your motion to approve also include all the county staff recommendations?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hadaway, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes? Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. It is approved. Good luck.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item seems to be our calendar. We have a proposed calendar for the coming year. Do we have any issues with the calendar?
I haven't. Was it part of the packet? I hadn't seen that.
It's in the back of my packet.
Shame on me for stopping at the calendar. Look at that. I mean, is it basically the same week? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I have no trouble with that.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
I say yes, it's 4-0. The calendar is approved. Okay. And last but not least is minutes.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, Mr. Hadaway,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes, Ms. Stark,
Yes.
I vote yes, the minutes are approved. Anything else for the good of the order?
Just to share, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if everybody was here, but one of our alternate board members, Zane Beard, who's now Zane Ertel, was recently happily married and is in wedded bliss, and I'm I'm so happy for the guy.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's awesome.
Good for Zane.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Very nice.
All right.
His mother and father have amazing photos on Facebook if you want to see them.
All right. And what's our next meeting date? I know we don't normally meet in November. We meet in December, right?
Right. We have our holiday meeting, and that is on December 7th.
All right. So December 7th. Do we know yet whether that's going to be virtual, live, hybrid?
We believe now that it's going to be hybrid, but we'll clarify that closer to the date.
Okay. No problem. Whatever you want. All right. Y'all have a great month. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
You too.
Happy
You too.
Halloween.